Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we are checking out High Noon Drifter, a gameplay mod by Terminus of Demon Steel fame that puts you in the shoes of a drifter, obviously. Think classic Western Clint Eastwood style, only he's riding into hell instead of across the dusty plains. Oh, and he also has a badass whip that can, in fact, destroy projectiles in midair before they have a chance to hit you in the face. That is awesome. Even more awesome is the fact that you can use that same whip to beat the ever-loving crap out of your enemies. It is a surprisingly effective melee weapon. It protects, it attacks, it's a valuable thing to have at your side. Not to mention the super shotgun. Double barrel mayhem for all to use, but guess what? You can double park this son of a bitch. You can put an extra 2 shells into the barrel and pretty much turn it into a quad shotgun. Again, awesome. Now, if you're thinking that the regular shotgun may pale in comparison to the super shotgun here, that is where you may be sorely mistaken. This thing is tremendously accurate at range and also benefits from a much faster fire rate than the super shotgun, making it tremendously useful when you're surrounded by a fair number of enemies, but when you need to do a lot of just concentrated damage, yeah, the super shotgun is the way to go. Still, for low to mid-tier enemies, you can't go far wrong with the regular shotgun, and if you're running a little too low on the good old ammo, then of course you can default to that tremendously effective whip. Just whip it good, and you'll save that ammo for a rainy day where you need to bring down something a little bit bigger perhaps. Something that I'd just like to spotlight, and something you've doubtlessly already noticed, is the fan action animation on the revolver here, which, believe it or not, is not a secondary fire option. This is all tied to the primary fire, and what that means is the fan animation is entirely dependent on how quickly you click that trigger button, and that just makes you feel like a badass. In most other mods that I've played that feature such things, on the alt fire, you kind of hold it down, and there you go. The fan animation just triggers, and it divorces you a little from what you're actually doing. But here, you feel like you're spitting those bullets as fast as you possibly can into your enemies' faces, and that immerses you so much more in the action. It is a really neat and awesome touch. I think it's the simplicity of High Noon Drifter that works best in its favor. Everything here feels as if it's within easy reach. It doesn't take a lot of effort to comprehend how the gameplay here functions. And before you know it, you'll be whipping projectiles out of midair, whipping your enemies to death, blasting them in the face with shotguns, and you will feel like a badass as a result. And that's before you've even gotten your hands on the rest of the available weaponry here. And I just can't help but compare this with other mods I've played that rely very heavily on certain gimmicks that sometimes will have you scratching your head, but here it's all discoverable through the gameplay. And other things that I discovered is that the machine gun here is really damn satisfying to use. And guess what? You can dual wield these puppies, essentially doubling your satisfaction. Just remember to hit that reload button before they hit 0, because as with most of the weaponry here, they do in fact require the old manual reload. And that is something that does occasionally catch me off guard in various mods that feature it, but there's something here in High Noon Drifter that actually clues you in to the manual reload before you get too far into a map or the gameplay itself, and that's the fact that the revolver you start with starts without any bullets. And it's things like this that I refer to when I mention discovering through gameplay. It doesn't slap you about the face saying, hey, you need to reload with a great big text prompt. It's subtle instead, and you take that assumption that you needed to reload the revolver and you apply it to the rest of the weaponry. Same kind of thing goes for the whip. You may begin unaware of the fact that it can destroy enemy projectiles. Such was the case for me, but through the gameplay, through active use, through happy accidents, you'll discover that, oh, that's a thing. That's really cool. Let's continue using that, and it just makes for a much more fulfilling gameplay experience, all couched within this really accessible, simple gameplay system, and that's part of the reason why I really like this mod so much. Your mod doesn't have to have complex interlocking systems that build on top of one another. You don't have to have a complicated credit system or level up system or ability switching. You just need solid core gameplay that feels good, and if you can nail that, I'll keep coming back. I'll keep playing it, and Terminus This is a very talented chap who seems to really understand what good gameplay actually feels like. Not to mention what good weapon animation looks like as well. Reloading and firing the super shotgun here is very nice, especially putting in those extra 2 shells. This animation for firing the dual machine guns, tremendously satisfying, and the fan action of the revolver, I just keep coming back to it. It feels like it's the linchpin. It's just really nice. Also, you explode when you die. Anyway, what about the rest of the weaponry here in High Noon Drifter? We've already had experience with the revolver all the way up to the dual machine guns here, but when you need to take down bigger kahunas, there's always the frag grenade. This explodes on direct contact. 2 hits will take down a Hell Knight, and if you should miss, it does have a little bit of a countdown before it explodes, sending out shrapnel and also dealing splash damage, which you will have to look out for yourself. This is the Anthrachia. This is where the arsenal of High Noon Drifter takes a little bit of a turn towards the arcane. An interesting weapon that deals continuous flame damage, it appears, and the nearest thing I can probably equate it to is, of course, the plasma gun. You're going to require a fair bit of focus on higher tier enemies such as Barons, though, if you want to bring them down, but still a lot quicker than plinking away at them with the revolver. Lower tier enemies, yeah, barbecues them pretty quick. So you may be wondering, if this is the replacement for the plasma gun, what then could the replacement for the BFG possibly be? Well, wonder no more, because the Basilica is here to fill that role, and yep, that is a fireball that deals in total annihilation. That is exactly what I want in that particular weapon slot. And just to ram the point home, we're going to try it out on a few more monsters here. Yep, they're dead. But interestingly, there is a little bit of an additional effect you can inflict on enemies with this thing, and that is by just generally setting them on fire, which sends them into a flee state. They'll run around and take damage until they keel over and die, and I think this Baron needs a little bit of help. Yeah, his health pool is pretty high. Let's try the bow and arrow. This is actually one of the replacements for the chainsaw here in High Noon Drifter, and I was actually quite surprised how effective it turned out to be. I mean, I expected it to deal a fair bit of damage to lower tier enemies, but it takes a shockingly few amount of arrows to take down something like a cacodemon. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 arrows it took to get rid of the Caco, and I believe 5 for the Arachnotron. It's pretty powerful. There's also a Boomerang. Not really as much a fan of this one, and it just seems to kind of pale in comparison to a lot of the other weaponry you can get your hands on here in High Noon Drifter. I suppose the thing with the Boomerang is you can have 9 total, and you can have 9 of them potentially spinning around all over the place at a time, should you need. But yeah, this probably isn't the best showcase for that particular weapon, flinging them endlessly against Barons, but still, yeah, there's much more satisfying weapons I'd rather use. Last but certainly not least, there's an ability here that you need to bind a specific key to use, and that is the ability to throw your hat at your enemies. Now, I'm not sure if it qualifies as a weapon, because I'm not entirely sure whether it actually inflicts any damage at all, despite the fact that enemies do flinch when you hit them with it, but, yeah, I'm not thinking I'm going to be winning any fights with just the hat alone at this stage. The fact that you can make it float around by shooting at it as well is a wonderful touch, and the only thing that I feel is missing from this ability is being able to have that hat land squarely on a demon's head. Maybe give you a damage buff as a result. Any demon that hat lands on is now even more susceptible to being shot at in the face. Seriously though, the more I think about it, the more applications that hat could potentially have. Why not give it serrated edges? You could decapitate demons by flinging it at them, or even crazier, you could take over demons by having it land on their head, Super Mario Odyssey style. That would be very interesting to see indeed. But regardless, in its current form, High Noon Drifter is a tremendously good gameplay mod. So yeah, you should definitely check High Noon Drifter out, and if you're interested, the link, as usual, is in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.